Our reason to rejoice today is found in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7, one of my favourite Bible verses. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. And I'm just going to take that word by word. The first bit, anxiety. The stuff that stresses us out, the stuff that robs us of our joy, the stuff that is fear, basically. I don't know if you've got any of that at the moment. All your anxiety. So the big things, the terrifying things that are going on in the world, but also the big things in our lives, and also the small things, the tiny things, the sort of things that we think, I can't bother him with that, it's way too tiny. It says all our anxiety. Sometimes it's accumulation of little anxieties, little niggles that really start to build up and steal our joy. I don't know if you've come across that little phrase about how it's not the mountain that's going to get you, it's the stone in your shoe. All these tiny little things. So it's all of our anxiety, cast it onto him. And this is where it's great to talk to other people. I think that's really healthy and really important. But we have this invitation as Jesus' people to come to him, to Jesus himself, with our anxieties. And then it gives us the reason why we are to cast all of our anxiety onto him. And here's the reason why. It's not because he's strong enough to take it, although he is. And those things that feel to us to be insurmountable mountains are to him like little specks of dust in the palm of his hand. But that's not why. It's not because he's wise enough to find a way through it, although he is, and he can sniff out a path in a fog. He can find a way through something that's too knotty for anyone else to ever be able to find a way through. But that's not the reason. Nor is the reason because he's so superior to us that he can redeem it. Although he can. He's the God of transformation. And he can take Jesus' dead body and bring it back to life through death into resurrection. So he can transform anything that's going on in our lives. But that's not the reason we're given either. The reason we're given that we are to cast all our anxiety onto him is this. Because he cares for you. And I think the reason lots of us struggle to bring God our anxieties at times is because we struggle to believe that last little bit of the verse. We find it hard to appreciate the fact that God cares for us. But imagine if you were taken to the cinema and you were shown in fast forward a real life mother and child, and you got to watch every part of that relationship play out in front of you on the screen. And so you saw when she found out she was pregnant, and you were there at the scans, and you saw the look of joy on her face as she felt her baby kick for the first time. You were there as she gave birth, and you got to watch the labour in all of its gory glory. And then you saw the expression as she held her child for the first time. Imagine you sat there in the cinema and you watched the late night feeds when she got up for the third or the fourth or the fifth time that night in exhaustion to feed the child. You were there as she wrestled with them as a toddler and tried to persuade them to eat peas, and you saw the agonizing she took over trying to make sure that they got into the school that she thought would be the best for them. You saw her as she dropped her child off at school for the first time, and you were with her as she went home, and all she could think about was how they were getting on at school. Imagine you're there with her as she plans the birthday parties and she thinks about things that are going to make them smile, and she snatches little moments at the end of the day or just before they go off to play with their friends just to have a point of connection, just to be with them. Imagine you were there with her through the years of raising the child as a teenager. You stood with them as they watched their child get married. You were there with the mother as she saw her child become a parent themselves. Imagine you got to see up close on this giant screen all the ways in which that mother cares for that child. You would, as you left that cinema, be in no doubt that the mother cares for that child. Well, the Bible's a bit like that kind of a movie, except we're in it. And it's not a mother and a child, it's God and us. And it shows how he knew us before we were even conceived. It shows how he knows a word that's on our tongue before we ever speak it. It shows how every single day of our lives is written in his book and on his heart before it ever comes into existence. It shows that he knows the number of hairs on our head and the thoughts that we think. It shows that he pays attention to every part of who we are, that he knows us better than we know ourselves, that our names are written on the palm of his hand, that not only does he know your name, but he gives you a name by which to call him, and the name is Father, that he adopts us, that he enters into this everlasting, unbreakable covenant and relationship with us that will always, always be there. That if we're still in doubt, we see the cross and we see the cost, and we see that though the cost was inconceivably high, he paid it gladly, because on the other side, he gets to be with us. He cares for us. Given that then, do we think he wants us to bring him those things that concern us? Of course he does. And the word is cast. Think like one of those American football quarterbacks that chucks the ball. Throw it onto him. That concern that you're carrying today, throw it onto the God who is with you, the God who loves you, the God who cares about you. In him we have a reason to rejoice.